French leader Emmanuel Macron has met with Vladimir Putin at this point. He is set to meet with the Ukrainian president in Kyiv. How are you feeling about these latest developments? Do they ease any concerns?
They do. The diplomatic initiatives that are being taken by France and Germany and other countries in Europe is a positive sign that this crisis may have some resolution. And I think it is one of the most dangerous crises the world has faced since at least the 2003 war against Iraq, and possibly even the Cuban Missile Crisis, because we're talking about powers that have nuclear weapons, and any kind of conflict could well spiral out of control.
And on that note of weapons, how important do you think it is, Glenn, that other leaders, if necessary, become involved to make sure this comes to a peaceful resolution? What would you like to see from the Canadian government?
Well, on the Canadian government side, we've been disappointed in what we've seen. The Canadian government has not emphasized diplomatic initiatives. There is a framework for peace in Ukraine. It's the Minsk Accords. And the Canadian government instead has tried to emphasize the question of sending arms to Ukraine, training of the Ukrainian army. And in fact, in the two visits made by Canadian ministers to Europe, they did not meet with their counterparts in Russia. So I think Canada has failed substantially on the diplomatic front, emphasizing instead this whole idea of confrontation, hard power, boots on the ground. And one of the most serious contributing factors that Canada has assisted in this is its continued push that Ukraine should be part of NATO. That has really been part of the crisis, at the root of the crisis here.
Let's turn to family and friends. Just wondering whether you have family and friends in the Ukraine and what this is like for Ukrainian Manitobans, just watching and waiting, essentially.
Well, I'm third generation Ukrainian Canadian, and there is some family in Ukraine because not all emigrated, but have lost touch with them over the years. But we do know, and I am in contact with, more recent Ukrainian arrivals into Winnipeg. The real concern is that Ukraine will become this battleground for no good reason. There's no good reason that there can't be a solution to the problems of whether Ukraine should be part of NATO. There is no reason that the internal problems that Ukraine faces with the civil war that's been raging in the eastern part of Ukraine, these can be all solved.
What's it like for your organization at this point? Do you have any plans for whether it's consultations, letter writing, rallies? What are kind of your steps forward?
Our steps forward are to continue to push for a diplomatic solution that the Canadian government should take a diplomatic tact in its questions on Ukraine. That's what our main concern is. And we have written to MPs about this question. We have discussed this with local members of Parliament, that we favor Canada taking a de-escalation rather than an escalation of its efforts.
Plenty more to come, and I'm sure we will be chatting with you again. That is Glenn Michalchuk. He's the president of the Winnipeg branch of the Association of United Ukrainian Canadians. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you very much for having me.